Ladies and gentlemen, the man of the night, multiple award-winning author in the genres of poetry, children's literature. He is a co-founder of Lion and Lilac, the Roaring Lion of Newcastle, Tolutoludo.
Rah.
The Lion of Newcastle.
Rah.
How are you doing, sir? You okay?
I'm good.
You're
I
good.
think the raw is the perfect answer for that. Yeah.
That's true. So, what I wanted to kind of begin with is the early part of your life. How was it? Any siblings? Any kind of key stories that you would like to enlighten us as to how you became Tolutoludo?
Yeah, I remember back then growing up in Ekiti State in southwestern Nigeria. So I lived in Ekiti State, southwestern Nigeria for over 7 years of my life before we relocated as a family to Lagos State. So my dad relocated to Lagos back then in 1990. Then we joined him in 1991. But I think I remember growing up some of the key moments like being in nursery with a wooden slate. I remember key moments in primary schools back in Ekiti State. I was in a Catholic primary school, so I was in
Okay.
I think it was St. Emmanuel's primary school. We had like a yellow school uniform with a dark brown khaki shorts. Then I think I have a recollection of being on the assembly ground. I remember going to St. Joseph's Catholic primary school as well. Yeah, so just a bit of recollections. I'm from a family of 4. I'm the second child of 4.
Okay.
And yeah, so 2 brothers, 1 elder, 1 younger, and a younger sister as well.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents, they were both teachers at the initial stage. My dad was a teacher of English language at the time, and my mom taught French and Yoruba language. So I grew up in a home where language was the predominant factor.
Yeah.
So that was really like an important aspect of my growing up. Then when we moved to Lagos, my dad, he pivoted into banking. But once a teacher, always a teacher. So the elements, studying English and literary studies from the University of Ibadan in southwestern Nigeria, that really helped to shape my own literary career. Because at that time, I never knew that one day I would become a writer myself, but we had a lot of books in the house. And as growing up, I was quite introverted. I was somebody who found solace just being indoors, not talking much, just staying at home, reading books, reading newspapers, just observing nature. So it's always just been like a thing for me, like staying home, just in my own space. I always had big dreams to like just conquer the world. But what form it would take, I never knew. Yeah, so growing up, I think childhood experiences, I used to get into a lot of trouble as well.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah. I think there was a particular day my mom had made, very nice jollof rice, served just add a spoon, then in my mouth, then a neighbor knocked to say I was part of a group that came to pluck guava fruits from there. And that was the end of that was the end of the dinner that night. So there was, a lot of times where the family would be going out to visit family friends, where I would be left home by myself, just as a form of a way of punishing me for misdemeanors, just youthful misdemeanors and all of that. Yeah, so my dad was quite strict, I guess because he was a teacher, also an Ekiti man. Ekiti people, they are kind of like strong-willed, strong characters. Yeah, and Ekiti, I think one fun fact as well is that Ekiti State is known as the fountain of knowledge in Nigeria.
Okay.
So there are people who have walked this path before me, erudite scholars, men who have conquered the knowledge space, who I will use this opportunity to give credit to them as well, because it's more like they are precedents to this. So the fact that I, Tolu A, Akinyemi, I've also grown as a renowned writer. It's just more like following the footpaths of some of the great sons and daughters of my state of origin.
Yeah.
So I think growing up, it was just like a mixed bag. Yeah, in the home of my dad, if I give him my assignment back in the days to help me like have a look at it, he would shred it into pieces. As an English teacher, what do you expect? So I didn't really find it fun like giving my work to him to look at it and just give me to revise it for me, because it would just be like, oh wow, what has this man done to my work? Then I think my recollection of secondary school was I used to read a lot of books. I took a couple of books from, was it the library or just some books loitering around back in secondary school, took it home just to read. And I had some friends back then in secondary school. We just used to exchange books, and yeah, so it was really good, like just having those recollections. And I think after secondary school, I had like a close encounter with death. Like I was driving the car, they just drove it through the fence of our house. And yeah, but nothing happened, not even the scratch. Imagine driving the car through a fence and coming out the other side.
The other side.
Yeah, so I guess it's just because of days like this, roaring like a lion, and yes, all the books that have come, it shows that there is more from this God in human body. And yeah, so I'm grateful for the gift of my talent. Yeah, so I acknowledge God in all of this as well, because God is the giver of talent, and yeah, so and I know that my life has been very purposeful in the kind of way my writings have touched people, not just in the UK but all around the world. People have read my works, and it made them feel like a certain type of way. So yeah, so that gives me like a lot of joy, a lot of that my work is making an impact all around the world.
Yeah. I want to go back over something you mentioned regarding your father and you giving him your English homework. You mentioned that he's an English teacher.
Yeah.
So do you feel that grounding with him being an English teacher in the house set you on a much earlier path than you would have otherwise into your path to becoming a poet?
Yeah, so I would say it played a major part, because my love for books, literature was just because of the availability of books. Yeah, then the way it would edit, it would just edit your work, and you feel like you have to do you have to do better. Yeah, so it was really good. Even in my early writing days, I used to go to him to say, "Oh, what do you think about my book title?
Okay.
What do you think about this poem, or what do you think about?" Like, just go to him. He used to give me like advice. He just used to make himself available. So I think that mentoring has always been there. So, but yeah, I think my dad studying English and literary studies really helped, because there were so many books in the house, all of the African writer series. It was more of like my early introduction to the Achebes, the D.O. Fagunwas, the Wale Soyinkas, and my dad used to speak so much like in quotes and parables. So if you were to do something wrong in the house, it would quote maybe a D.O. Fagunwas quote, or maybe when I was like chasing after ladies, it would just say, "Oh, D.O. Fagunwas said." D.O. Fagunwas is a Nigerian writer, and my dad would just say in D.O. Fagunwas' book, he said if a young person should wake up in the twilight of his life or in the early part of his life and is like chasing women up and down, it would not really amount to anything great. So my dad used to speak a lot like in parables and in quotes. If you were to do something wrong, he had like a literary quote from a book somewhere, or he could quote something from Achebe or Wale Soyinka just to to pass his message across. So it was more of a house where language thrived, and yeah, we always believed as well, because we were like a family of little beginnings. So it was a family. It was a family where words, we really thrived on words, on prayers, just knowing that sowing words are seeds. That so words carried a lot of weight in the family.
Okay.
Because if you were like in a family of low means, even though when we got to Lagos, we were living like in a middle income environment where the middle class were mainly, but within that environment we were more like lowly placed, and they never really rated us. They thought like, oh, who are these people who should not really be here? Yeah, so my dad had to work his way. He had to drive taxis on some occasions just to give us breakfast on Saturday or on Sunday mornings, just just before we could eat. So it took a lot of like you know additional hustle in the family. Just but we really believed, we thrived on words, so prayers, believe. So I think that really helped, just as a foundation to get me to where I am today.
Okay. Okay. Uh, what about your siblings? Are they the same way inclined as yourself, literary wise, or?
Yeah, so my elder brother, I remember when I used to have like a blog of essays. He also used to write, and my younger brother as well. He also used to write, and yeah, so everyone in the family were all more like literary inclined. Everybody, had the love for writing, for literature, and I think the fun fact, or yeah, the the thing that united us as a family was that in the three of us, like the three boys, we were all granted the UK Global Talent Visa. Yeah, so at the time I got mine, it was called the Exceptional Talent Visa for arts, creative writing, poetry. Yeah, so that shows that like writing was a commonality within the family. We're all right. We are all writers. My elder brother has published his own books as well. He's published his books. My younger brother has published one book as well. So yeah, so it's more of like a commonality within the family.
Okay.
And yeah, so and I think we are united by words. I used to write personal essays initially while I was at the university in Nigeria. I used to write like finance articles. So I used to write like a lot of finance articles, just you know, investment on investing, personal finance, and all of that. Then after when I left uni, I started writing essays on personal development as well. So how people could become better. So I think I initially started as an essayist,
Okay.
then later on morphed into a poet, then into storytelling, then children's literature. But I think the most important aspect which I have omitted was that growing up as well, I wrote a play. So I wrote a movie script as a young as a teenager.
Okay.
Yeah, even though I can't find that script anymore, but it used to be my thing. Like I used to document. I love documenting stories, documenting history. Yeah, so it used to be like my thing to like just document things that were happening just around the world.
Okay.
I wanted to just be able to like when you ask me how many states are in the US, you will find that in my journal to say the first person to achieve this in the world to do that. So I just love to like document stories and document history. So I think my love for writing, as far as I remember, has been on like for from time immemorial.
Yeah.
I used to read a lot newspapers. Like I would read every section. I just loved words.
You loved reading,
I
eh?
loved reading. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would read anything that you can get your hands on.
Anything.
Wow.
I
Wow.
would
Wow.
read anything and everything. So the love was just there.
Yeah, that shows a real love for reading, writing. I'd like to ask you, do you remember what your script was about by any chance?
it was just Africa, the way the Nigerian movies inclined. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's something around. I think it was more. I think it was a love story, something close to that, but
Hmm.
I'm not so sure
You
anymore.
don't
Yeah, so
remember? It's
yeah,
been
but
years. Eh?
it was really close to my heart. Yeah, like
Ah.
I really. So it was just something like I've loved to do, like growing up,
Hmm.
and yeah, so to be here today is a thing of joy for me as well.
Hmm.
Like to see how I started this journey so many years ago, and to be an author of 22 books,
22
not just
books.
22 books, 22 impactful and profound books.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that gives me a lot of joy,
Hmm.
and it makes me feel like yeah, I've achieved. Like I think in 2019 when I released Dead Cats Don't Meow at the Late and Fair in Newcastle, I said if this was my last book, I've laid my imprints on the sands of time. The way you feel like, oh, you've done everything, and that was just 4 books.
Hmm.
And fast forward 5 years after 18 additional books, then it's a thing of utter joy, sheer accomplishment. And even writers from Nigeria, from around the world,
Hmm.
people just see me, like when I go to Time Market, the foreigners just see me and say, oh, you must be a whiskey. You are so talented. Everybody just wants to they just want to feel you, talk to you, like, oh, are you really ill, man?
Hmm.
Yeah, so it gives me like a lot of joy, a lot of satisfaction to see that even in my own lifetime, I'm getting all of the accolades, all of the celebrations.
Hmm.
Because I think the thing that happens with a lot of writers is that in their lifetime, they are not that celebrated, or they do not attain the success that they wish to attain when they are
They
alive.
don't get their
They
flowers.
don't get the flowers, yeah.
Hmm.
And it's when they die that start they start getting all of the celebration. But any little celebration that I get while I'm here, I'm grateful for it, and yeah,
Hmm.
and I think it's very well deserved as well.
I think so too. I mean, if I may chime in just for a second, you were one of the main inspirations as to why I'm doing what I do. Seeing you and your growth, having been there when you released your first book, and then kind of watching from afar, and then eventually coming back full circle. And then by the time we reinitiated contact, you were, I think, at that time on your 22nd book,
Yeah,
and it's like, wow. And then that now forced me to look back and say, oh, look at the trajectory, look at the points that you were hitting each time,
yeah,
and it inspired me a great deal. So even I myself, I'm thankful to you because you were such an inspiration, bro. I can't talk highly enough of that. It gives me great joy to be able to do to have the gumption to do what I do because I know that even I myself will inspire someone else
yeah,
just in the same way that you inspired me. So I wanted to jump forward a little bit, but also jump back as well because you mentioned that you were one of the few people that have what was the name of the visa again? Sorry.
global talent. So then it was called the exceptional talent visa,
Okay,
but now it's called the global talent visa.
the global talent visa, and is that what allowed you to come here to the UK, or were you here already? How does that work?
Yes, I was already here, but I moved over to that visa here.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that visa, just for anybody that might be interested, how does one go about being considered for it?
Yeah, so if you are, talented in the area, I think in tech, in the field of arts, that's the literature, and I think in sciences as well.
Okay,
So I think there are 4 areas where, and I think people doing like PhD and stuff.
okay,
Yeah, so but I was considered in the area of arts, and yeah, so just people who are talented, who are renowned, exceptional people in these creative areas. So either creative writing, poetry, even people like fashion designers, I think they fall under the arts category.
mm,
So filmmakers, producers.
mm,
So yeah, I think it's just important. Just people can do their research, go online,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, just But yeah, there's a thing like that for creative people, talented people to come into the UK. And I'm also grateful to the Art Council England as well for finding me worthy to, to benefit from that global talent visa. Because at the time when, I released my first book in 2017, The Lionstone Row, some of the, people that wrote recommendation letters for me, part of the things they mentioned were that, oh, Tolu is going to go on to become one of the greatest writers in the northeast of England. People could say, like, there was something different about this black writer who had arrived on the scene and was doing phenomenal work. People were, wherever I performed, they used to be so electric. People would roar. Everyone is on the seat. At times, I have another poetry collection, Dead Dogs Don't Bark, and they don't bite. So at times, I get people barking as well, like dogs. There are times we are meowing like cats. So it's more like so then going forward, when I just get onto like people, I get introduced to come on stage, everywhere is just on fire. People are just, everyone is roaring. So I think even some of the writers on the scene believe that, yeah, a great writer had arrived on the scene. And I think what actually changed the trajectory of my life was while I was working back then with a global, should I call it professional services firm or consulting firm back then. And I used to write a lot. Like my writings were aimed more on where I was working and all of that. But the moment I saw that I needed to shift, I needed to shift my mindset from just that local setting and see the world as my stage. That was when I observed that there was a total change in my writing as well. I needed to write for the world. I needed to see beyond my immediate workplace, work environment. I needed to see beyond ICM and TFFI.
You need to expand your horizons, innit?
Yeah, so I needed to see the world as my, just take the world by storm. And the moment I took that leap, I think that was when everything just changed for me.
Sometimes you just need to take that leap, just have the faith.
Yeah, because you can, I think, to be fair, you can be lost in that cocoon, like being the best in your local environment when you should be operating like on a global pedestal.
100%.
Yeah, so it's just like you want to be like a local champion where you can actually take over the world. So until I saw the need to like just take over the world, move from where I was, then I think that was the point. Everything just changed for me in the journey.
Just to touch back on something that you mentioned, you were an introvert growing up.
Yeah.
You now find yourself in the northeast of England. You're inspired to write all these books. How is it that you overcame your shyness and your introvertedness to now becoming this extroverted, seemingly type of person? How did you do that?
Yeah, I think it was quite easy for me in the sense that Dead Lionstone Row, my first collection of poems, and the story I told about just going on to perform, people roaring.
Can I have a loud roar like a lion? Can I have a loud roar like a lion? Can I have a loud roar like a lion?
And so that's just the icebreaker every performer like you need to get on stage to stay energized. It's more like conquering all your fears. You can't finish roaring. Everyone in the audience has already roared with you. Then you can't be timid. You're a lion. I had so many people walk up to me to say, "Oh wow, we love your performance. You're so brave. We love the roars." Like, so there's no way you can. So, but I think for me, I think it's more refreshing to not to be an introvert, because even in your personal relationships, it helps you a lot. If someone has hurt you or done something wrong to you, you're able to like express yourself, talk to them about it. Because if you are introverted, you just keep it to yourself most times, and you are hurting, and you're unable to speak out. So, but I think now it's much more easier for me to like express my opinion or tell people the way I feel about situations, and not just bottle it all up. because what that does to us is that it keeps brewing, like,
Yeah.
and the day everything just erupts.
Yeah. And it's not healthy, to keep things bottled up.
I agree. It's not healthy at all. Yeah. So, but I think it was deadlines don't really make it easy for me, like, to transit from, and I think just I've always been like a public speaker, being introverted. I've always like done like public speaking events, So I've lost that fear of like being timid in front of a crowd. I'm bold. I love to communicate my ideas. So right now, I don't see it as, I don't even think about, I've forgotten I used to be once introverted. Although at times I may just be, because as a writer as well, I enjoy solitude, because some of my books, I wrote them in the dead of the night, where men were asleep, or a lot of people were sleeping. So as a writer, you want to reveal in silence, in solitude, because that's how you can process the words, the ideas. There is a chance that you have distractions when you are thinking of, what word am I, what metaphor, what imagery am I using for this line, this poem, and where there's noise, there is. Not to say that I've had poems written while I was running, jogging, during my daily exercise routine, but I think most importantly, even silence is a good commodity to have as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate, because for me, burning the midnight oil, that's when a lot of my ideas come through, in terms of, I'd like to try and do this, or maybe even achieve a certain type of goal. So I can definitely relate. Do you think that your best work comes in solitude, or is it maybe a mixture?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. But I think I just like, just being alone, being able to process the words without distraction. So I would say some of the best work have come in solitude as well. As long as either solitude, I could be outside, but as long as I'm alone with my thoughts, without any form of distraction.
Okay.
And I've also had ideas that, as a writer who observes, recounts, and documents history, a lot of the writings have come from inspiration, like talking to people, events that have happened in my environment, in my community, people around me.
Yeah.
I had a book, I had a dream once, and I woke up, I started writing.
Okay.
Even though I ended up being I ended up not going along with some of the poems. But in the dream, I was writing, and the book, I just continued writing.
Okay.
So
sometimes that can happen. You
Yeah.
think that you have some inspiration, but then as you follow along the path, you find that this is not making sense.
But I think I've also had like encounters in the dreams that have metamorphosed into poems.
Okay.
Because if you look at the nature of life itself is a spiritual world. You're in a spiritual race. And when you sleep at night, today you might see different characters appearing in the scene of your dreams. At other nights, there are different characters. So the nighttime, the dream part of life comes with like a whole host of characters. So that in itself can fill a whole book as well.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. And I think for those of us who are spiritually inclined, we can definitely relate. I mean, I've had dreams, where it's turned into an idea.
Yeah.
But the dream had nothing to do with either videography or any kind of blogging or anything. It was almost like it was a parable or an allegory of something. But then when I started to think about it more, then it manifested into an idea of how I can perhaps achieve a certain goal. So I can definitely relate. I'd like to transition to your now life in the UK. First of all, why and how Newcastle? How did that come about?
Why Newcastle? So I went back to Nigeria in 2015. So this was reverse migration. I initially arrived in the UK 2010 for my master's degree at the University of Hertfordshire. It was a beautiful experience. I did mentoring work at the university. I was a student ambassador at the university as well. So that was like that laid the foundation for me in terms of integrating myself into the UK environment, the educational environment, the experience, just building relationship with students from various schools and even from the university itself. Then in 2015, I moved back to Nigeria. I got a job in Nigeria. I moved back with my family. In 2016, I returned after a year and 3 months in Nigeria. And yeah, so I moved back to Manchester, which was my base before I left for Nigeria. Then in 2016, after I arrived, I worked in Nigeria as a data analyst. So I applied to, data analyst jobs. I had about 3 offers. Then I also got a job in Newcastle. So, but because the Newcastle job was the first job, like the first start date, the earliest one, then I picked the Newcastle and I resumed in Newcastle.
Okay.
And that was how I found myself in Newcastle upon time.
Right. Thank God for the recruiters in Newcastle. Eh?
Thank you. Shout out to the recruiters in Newcastle upon time. You made dreams. Solid dreams.
That's true. That's true. So how did you find the or was there even a culture shock when you first arrived in the UK? Were you staying in Hertfordshire or
Yeah, Hertfordshire, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you find the culture shock?
It was crazy. I remember one day I went to Asda to shop. It was so cold, and like my hand was like, I think snow was falling, and my hand was like, I was just feeling some certain type of way as if I was dying, and I was screaming at a car that was passing by to say, "I'm dying, please help, please help." So I think one of the the car drivers just picked me up and dropped me close to my my halls of residence gate. So that day I felt like, well, I was just going to die. Like the cold was just too much for me. Like, so I think that was at that initial stage. Looking back at that, reminiscing of that, I feel like that was a crazy stuff.
Yeah.
The way I was just being like a bush, like a character who are just like Sophia in London.
Yeah.
The movie, that's like a Nigerian movie. Like, so there was this character who came from Nigeria to London, and all of the things in London was just like a puzzle. Yeah, so that was a big puzzle. Yeah, so
That's how you felt as well.
yeah, but I think one of the profound moments for me in Hartfield was I used to have my hair cut at a barbering salon back then, and it was a Nigerian barber, and he barbed I had my hair cut the first time. Oh, he said, "Oh, you're gonna be a pastor," and I said, "Nah, like no, not me." Then I went again, maybe after a couple of months, but he forgot that he had seen me before. And he had my haircut again. He said, "Oh, you're going to be a pastor someday." But even though I've returned back I wrote in one of my poems in Never Marry a Writer about me returning back to my Catholic roots. So the chances of being a pastor
is increased.
Yes, has decreased profoundly since I'm back in my Catholic roots. But I think what that has taught me is that being a pastor is not just being a pastor of a church, but this talent is my ministry, which I'm currently presiding over. So I see it as my ministry. Going on stage, performing, having a loyal fan base, people who believe in my talent. Some writers, when I arrived in Newcastle, some of them that I looked up to today, they look up to me. The growth has been evident over the years. So I believe this is my ministry. Yeah. So I think just from moving from Nigeria to the UK, it's been a roller coaster. But over the years, I've immersed myself well into the culture. Why not losing my own? Why not still out of touch with my own roots, with my own culture, just staying grounded. So I feel like people say, "Oh, Tolu, your accent has not changed like over the years." Yeah, so I stay grounded in my own skin, just enjoy being Tolu Akinyemi and not trying to be anyone else. So yeah, but I think Newcastle, I call Newcastle the city of my shining star, and Newcastle the city of my rising star. And I wrote a poem I think it was in Dead Dogs Don't Bark, about sojourning into different cities to have swept all the footprints, the imprint for my shoe sole in an instant. Yeah, so but Newcastle has been, and I said if Newcastle was a damsel, I will be saying, will you say I do? So if Newcastle was a woman, I would just take her to the nearest altar to say, yeah, let's get married, because it's been a beautiful author story. I found great acclaim in Newcastle upon time. I found prominence here in Newcastle upon time. I found a community of writers who sheltered me in the days the nights were forlorn. Poetry was my anthem, and the passages my soul dances to. So I'm grateful to Newcastle upon time. I'm grateful to the Art Council England for believing in my talent, finding me worthy to become a recipient of the exceptional talent visa at the time, because that's what's been the catalyst for all these books. At the time, I never knew I would someday be the author of over 22 or 22 books as of now, but I think that was just a catalyst that has led to this moment, this day, and all of the achievements that have come with it.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I like that you say that this effectively is your ministry, because I tend to agree with you. I don't think that, being a pastor necessarily means leading a church per se in on a Sunday, or I think everybody has to tap into their own talent, and use that as well to try to lead people back to, whether you want to call it the creator, God, the creator of all things, however you address that. And I think that's powerful that you mentioned that, because in as much as I agree with it now, I'd never really thought of it that way. It's powerful that you say that. Okay, I wanted to delve into some of the books that you've published up to the present moment. The one that's, in a manner of speaking, near and dear to me, and of course yourself as well, titled "Architects of a Cleaner Financial System," a collection of financial crime compliance poems. Now, when I saw this, I was like, how is he going to juxtapose these two worlds together? Because, as you know, there's a lot of jargon, a lot of, intricate terminologies and etc. But as I was reading, I was thinking, he's actually done it. He's actually able to do it. I was amazed, because I'm reading, one of the poems that stuck out for me is "Our love was event driven." It goes on to say, let's review. Her soft-spoken words melted my heart like wax. Here are the triggers. There was a merger of two hearts, a conduit pipe of love's attraction. We have been to the Eiffel Tower, padlocked our hearts, and thrown the key into the river. Our love was an event-driven soap opera and high risk. You put all these key words of the financial crime world into just this one poem. How did this come about? Please explain to me.
Yeah, Architect of a Cleaner Financial System. When I wanted to write it, I told my wife, my partner, I was like, oh, I'm going to write a collection of financial crime compliance poems. Because I normally sound off my ideas off her just to, get her, she's the one who keeps me like grounded. Because, as a creative person, you have all these crazy ideas that you want to implement. And she was like, no, don't try. But I just had that conviction in my heart that this is something I've not seen, like a full-length collection of financial crime compliance poems. And if there was anyone who could do this, then it had to be myself. I have over a decade experience within financial crime compliance. So if anybody could, wear that art prop, perfectly well to juxtapose, the world of financial crime compliance into poetry, then yeah. So I had to just go against her, what she wanted, and I felt like, yeah, this was my moment in the sun, and I wouldn't let it go past. Yeah, so it was just, taking, the one you just read. Our love was high risk and event driven. So, when we look at high risk, high risk reviews, what can go wrong? Yes, and there are so many, relationships that are like toxic, that that are not, they don't fulfill the purpose they should be. If your love is like low risk, then maybe that's like a close to perfect. No one is perfect, anyways. Yeah, so just using you know the financial crime terminology and putting it into poetry, just walking around that. Yeah, so that was one collection that I really loved doing. And I think I had one of my editors, one of my book editors, I worked on one of my past poetry collections. I briefed her about it. She just, I think she didn't reply, or she just didn't come back to me, because it was something like, if you don't have a keen eye to learn something new as well, you won't be able to like edit it as well. So yeah, but it was something that was a collection I perfectly enjoyed doing, because it was also like out of my comfort zone as well, in terms of the kind of books I've written in the past. Yeah, so it was just like bringing it to life using financial crime, compliance terminologies, and just everyday occurrences as well.
Honestly, I mean, there are so many here. I'll just pick this one. Identity theft. My password is for sale on the dark web. I'm a vulnerable mouse amid hungry cats. Dark web activity detected. Norton's notification makes me blue. Twitter, 200 million accounts. My email, username, and phone name are in the cat's mouth. You know, I love, for example, with this one, how you juxtaposed identity theft within the financial crime world,
Yeah,
but then also in a manner that most people can probably relate to.
yeah,
You know, because everybody's familiar with usernames,
yeah,
emails, Twitter. Maybe not so much the dark web, but certainly people are aware that identity theft is a thing
yeah,
in the form of having your email account hacked,
yeah.
etc. So I honestly, I'm I'm amazed at the way that you were able to do it, and there's so many.
I think one of the ones that I had really performed there was interest rates.
Yes, which
Yes.
is the one I'm getting to now.
Yeah, and that one, a lot of people could relate to it, because interest rates impact us all, like our way of life, everything that affects us as well.
If I just read, so interest rates, the Bank of England duels with inflation. Firecrackers, we are the remnants of the fireworks. The interest rate is a rising spring. Inflation is causing an uprising. The interest rate has grown thorns, and we are greenhorns to this buffeting storm. The interest rate is on the rise. Inflation has swallowed sweet cravings, beaten the brave, flattened fat wallets. The Bank of England wrestles inflation, and the casualties of these body blows are washed like sand into the seashore. We've spoken briefly, you and I, about the rise in the interest rates, certainly
Yeah,
over the last 12 months. And once again, you've managed to put it in a succinct manner for people to be able to relate to the poetry as well as the financial crime world. So how do you sometimes like ideas just flow through you, or do you have to sit and formulate it? How does that work?
yeah. So I think the way it works for me is that I just let the ideas flow. Just if and when it flows, it flows. It flows like a river. It's a gusher.
Ah, there you go.
Like it's as if I'm in like an oil well, just found new oil, new discovery. Yeah, so it flows from time to time. I don't pressure myself. I'm not even want to say, oh, I experience writer's block anymore, because I don't put myself under any form of pressure to like write new books. Right now, I'm finalizing another poetry collection for next year, which I'm nearly done with it. Just has to go to the editors. And at times I speak to poet friends. They say, "Oh, it takes them. How do you do it? Like it takes us a long time to write our books. It even some say it takes them years." But for me, it's just like effortless. It's effortless. And I think the financial crime compliance poetry that you just read from here, that has received a lot of praise as well. Like for the novelty, the way it was crafted, and the way it's relatable as well. And I think that's the essence of my writing as well.
Yeah.
Write things that are relatable, because the world is a universal place.
Yeah.
The things and the issues that affect me also affect you. We all experience love, loss, heartbreak. We all dream of a better tomorrow. We have dreams, visions, ambitions as well. So this is all like a commonality for us all humans. So my job is just to observe, recount, and document these stories, which are mine and are as much as anyone else.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, man, because you and I have a similar level of knowledge as far as financial crime, but I could never imagine myself even thinking about trying to write something, it's not my field anyway. So I'll just stay in my lane. I wanted to move on to the next book that really touched my heart. And I'll tell you why this touched my heart, actually, before we get into it. It's called I Wear Self-Confidence Like a Second Skin. And I noticed that you kind of dedicated this to your daughter. Is that right, Abigail?
Yeah, Abigail.
Now, for me, and, I tell my sister and all my female friends, it's so important to have the presence of a father in a girl's life, a young girl's life. Not only for the protection aspect and everything, but to also just show and guide in a manner that only a father can.
Yeah.
The importance of having a father in a child's life, especially for girls, is so overlooked in today's world. And, I always try to encourage my female friends to pick wisely when you're picking somebody that you'd like to be, the father of your child. And what you've written here, I'll just read an excerpt. It's from page 14, which is the poem that that you've written here in regards to wearing self-confidence like a second skin. It says, "Be confident in who you are. Let no one make you feel less. Remember, you are a shining star. Believe in yourself. Say, I am brave and fearless, roaring like a lion. Be proud of your voice's echo. Wear self-confidence like your second skin, shining brightly like the afternoon sun. Be confident in who you are." I would like you to, if you could, give us an insight into the inspiration as to how, number one, this book, but specifically the poem, came about.
Yeah, so the book was just a book dedicated to my daughter Abigail, as you rightly mentioned. And she was having issues around her self-confidence, and and I felt like the benefit of having young children as well is that you're able to like feel the pulse of young children, the issues that affect them. So I felt I needed to write a book that spoke on the theme of self-confidence, that taught young children to be brave, to believe to have confidence in who they are, no matter what's going on around them in their school, just express that confidence. And I think it's really giving her as well clarity of thoughts. She's able to like express herself as well. Just my daughter can just come in and she questions anything and everything, and I give her that freedom and liberty as well, because I want a woman who is able to like articulate her thoughts without fear, or like, oh, maybe I'm being limited or I'm not able to voice my opinion. So she's even the one who can like ask anything, and I just let her like just say her mind, and yeah, she has her liberty. Yeah, so but I think the book was, inspired by her in the first place, and the poem in the book was just a poem that I wrote that would help young children to be brave, wear their self confidence like a second skin. Just a mantra for them, a mantra for today and for tomorrow as well. And I think the honest truth is that we all need to wear our self confidence like a second skin.
Yeah.
Children, young adults, adults as well. Either you are a creative practitioner, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're a public speaker, you're a performer. You need to wear your self confidence like a second skin. Our places of work, just be confident in who you are. It helps. It helps us a whole. It helps a whole lot as well. Like the kind of things people can even bring to you if they know you know your stuff. Then they wouldn't even bring bullshit your way. So
Yeah.
So I believe like it's a very important message, mantra that we should spread to our young children. That it's very important for them to wear their self confidence like a second skin. And anytime I see that they are not, they are showing signs that they are not confident,
Yeah.
I tell them to go and read the book again, just to because I want them to keep reinforcing it, that belief system that you need to be self confident in class, ask questions, be free to talk, express yourself, don't be timid or silent. And yeah, so I think it's a very important message for today, for the future. And I think it's a universal message that we should encourage ourselves and people around us to at least wear our self confidence like a second skin.
I couldn't agree more. Today we have a severe lack of what feels like love,
Yeah.
generally, amongst the people. In South Africa, we call it Ubuntu, which is togetherness.
Yeah.
And there's a severe lack of that. So, I'm glad to see that there are people still who take that seriously, especially fatherhood, raising young children, and instilling not only good values in them, but also that confidence to when they now come of age, they can go out and conquer the world and try to achieve their dreams as well in the same manner that you are.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. So what I'd like to know is what's next for Tolutoludo?
Yeah, writing wise, I am currently working on a collection of poems on the theme of home.
Okay.
Home in the sense that what is the construct of home? Do I really belong here? Home as a longing from my place of origin. Home as a construct. So just interrogating home and what home means to me. And within that interrogation, in as much as they are my stories, like I always have reiterated earlier, they are also everyone else's story. So that's one I'm working on. I also have plans to publish another collection of short stories, and I have a full-length novel in the works as well. I have a memoir that it's also a work in progress. So that's all I'm working on at the moment. But I'm just reveling in the moment, enjoying the moment as it comes, making myself available to through my performance poetry, which whenever I have the opportunity to mount the stage, I always derive so much joy, satisfaction, just roaring and seeing people roaring along with me. People just want to roar. I think it's just like you go to your show, you go to one of your favorite shows, and you see the performer or the music artist who is just carrying you along. So I think people are just generally like involved in my performance poetry. They feel themselves in it. I roar, they roar louder. I roar again. Everyone is roaring. And
Gives you energy.
It gives me the energy to just go on and just give my best. And I always tend to do that at the beginning and at the ending. And I think I want the roars to define my writing legacy as well. Like what people will remember me for was the lion who roared and and spread used his writing talent as a legacy to raise other burden people as well. And I think in terms of work in that area, I think I've fared tremendously well. I have I have a lot of writers who have come under my wings and who have supported in many ways. I also have my publishing imprint, the Roaring Lion of Newcastle, that has been a home for many other writers as well. So because initially it was just all about me, but as I grew in stature, I knew it was important as well to be able to have a platform or use my platform to raise other writers as well. Because I believe in community, in building a community of people. Most times people want people to platform them, but I always tell people, what can you create? What platform can you build? Can you platform others as well using your own resources? Because the more you platform others, the more the opportunities that come your way as well. Because the more you build people, those people you are building up, they'll be the gateway, the access way for you to access other opportunities as well. So I think what next is just using my own, shining the light for others who are coming after me. And like you said before, I think the whole essence of my writing is for people to believe as well that if Tolu can do this, then I also can do it too. I can even do it in a much more better way. So I want my life to be an inspiration to many others, that this beautiful author story can be replicated in their own personal lives as well. And that if this young man from Ekiti State in southwestern Nigeria could go on to achieve all of this milestone in his lifetime, then they also can go on this journey and make a success of it.
Powerful, powerful. Speaking of platforms, where can people find your work?
Yeah, my personal website, tolutoludo.com. That is tolutoludo.com. And my blog, toluakinyemi.com. I'm on Twitter at Tolu Akinyemi and at Tolutoludo. I am on Instagram at Tolutoludo and on Facebook at Tolu A Akinyemi as well. Yeah, so my publisher's website is the Roaring Lion of Newcastle.com, and I am the co-founder of lionandlilac.org. I'm also the founder of the Newcastle Review. So that's just available, and my books are available everywhere where books are sold. My books are available on my website and in all other online marketplaces as well.
Excellent, excellent. Toludo, excellent conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Rawr.